Welcome to another Walter Cronkite Sports Network Sun Devil Sit-Down. I'm Jack Harris, joined by a very special guest today. It is the Arizona State Women's Lacrosse head coach, Courtney Martinez Connor. Courtney, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Take me back to the beginning when you got hired here, because you had been out of coaching, or collegiate coaching at least, for about 5 years. So what was it about ASU that really made you want to come back into the coaching realm?
It was the people, the university, the warm weather, and the start of a brand new program, being able to do it, the way that you see fit from the very beginning, building that culture the right way and not having to change anything from a previous coach. The vision that Dr. Crow and Ray Anderson had for the university, the athletic program, all of that coupled into, one thing that I just couldn't pass up. And Ray said to me in his office from across a big kind of boardroom table, there's not going to be another opportunity like this, that. And once he said that, I've talked to a lot of athletic directors, opportunities that I've looked at over those 5 years, and I knew that that was truly the case. And, sure, other jobs would come and go, but not one like this. So I called my husband immediately. I'm like, okay, I'm taking this. And, as soon as he heard me say that, he knew it was something special, because all the other places I'm like, nah, no, thank you. So he knew I meant business.
Were you actively looking to get back into coaching, or was it just kind of like?
No, I would get calls here and there, and I'd sometimes look, sometimes not. Certainly always take a phone call, sometimes actually go fly out like this one. But I didn't think I would say yes at all. But first thing was, after meeting everyone, that was a plus. That, okay, wait a second, everybody's great. And I think football was playing Oregon. It was an exciting game, the atmosphere, just a bunch of things. And all the coaches, they aren't in their own individual silos. They support one another. There's something special going on here, and, I'm like, I have to be a part of that, the Sun Devil way.
Yeah. Now, I imagine, starting a Division I program from scratch is not easy, and there are a lot of things on the to-do list when you got hired. But what was the first thing that you had to do when you got here?
Oh my goodness. It was a long laundry list. I feel like I had 5 pages, literally. Meeting with all of the senior associate ADs, talking with the coaches, going to the admissions office, finding out about tours. I wanted to make sure that I was showing recruits any and everything about the school that I could. Barrett Honors College, just soaking everything in, really. Going up to the top of a mountain, taking it in from the highest level that I could. I think I did everything, and took it from a lot of different people's perspective, because I think if you just try and do it your own way and don't kind of pull from a bunch of different people's directions, you're doing a huge disservice. Not any one thing that I did. It was literally pulling apart from a lot of different people.
How hard was it to balance all of the different things you had to do when you got here, from, like you said, admissions, recruiting, even some of the smaller trivial things? How tough of a balancing act was that?
It was difficult, because I was trying to recruit at the same time, flying all over. But it's enjoyable. It's your job. When it's something that you love, you just kind of roll with it. Was it chaotic? Yes, super chaotic for, a good 2.5 years. But when you're finally out preparing for your first season and, you're underway, it's all worth it. Especially when you see the looks on your players' faces, it makes every little bit worth it, from all of those details of stressing of, what uniforms are you wearing, where's your locker room going to be. It seems like a trivial past at this point.
Now, you've brought in 40 players for this first team. What was the recruiting pitch when you were trying to get them all here? Because obviously, it's not a traditional lacrosse market. There wasn't, no history with a lacrosse team here. So how did you sell them to get them to come to Tempe?
We brought them in droves, the recruits, their parents, 4 different recruiting classes all in one time. We had different associate ADs, we had Ray and his wife come and speak, we had our compliance department, we had the Office of Student Athlete Development, we had the Barrett Honors College involved. We literally had students on campus on unofficial visits for a good 24, 48-hour chunk, and we literally dove them into campus and showed them everything. And once they were here, the campus sold itself. Obviously, we had them meet with people, gave them as much information as we could, but once they're here, that's the easy part. It's actually getting them to fly to the West, and it's Lacrosse in Arizona. Yeah. Yes, we do have it. We're just so happen to be the first university to have it. So the flying here was the most difficult part, because once you're here, this is paradise, and you kind of don't get any easier than that.
Yeah. What is your coaching philosophy in terms of what do you want to implement? Because I know on the one hand you were a great defender in college, but yet this team, the offense is really meshed well early, one of the higher scoring teams in the country. So is there one part of your guys' game that you really want to focus on and make that kind of like the rock you build around?
No, I think everything all together, from the draw to the D to the goalkeepers to the attack. We really talk about being one. Whether it's the goalkeeper making a save, as soon as she makes that save, you're a part of sparking our offense. As soon as, say, the other goalkeeper makes a save, that attacker immediately is a defender. So what we do as an entire 12-person unit on the field, and then everyone on the bench, we're like, we need you cheering for us. So, no matter your role on the team, it's an important one, and, that's something we talk about constantly. One of our little mantras is staying humble, staying hungry, and, whether you play every minute or you play 0 minutes or you play 5 minutes, we need you. So I think the girls really buy into that, and, it's not the defense winning anything or the attack winning anything, it's all of us together.
Mm-hmm. Lacrosse, or women's lacrosse, is a sport that's grown a lot at the Division I level in recent years, but the last 5 teams that have had like inaugural seasons, I think they've gone a combined 16 and 67, and yet here you guys are 4-1 right out of the gate. Like, what's led to that early success, and has it kind of like reset almost your expectations for what you thought you'd be able to do this year, or were you expecting to have this success early?
I think you always hope and pray and wish to have success early on, and there's a bit of luck, there's a bit of preparation, there's no necessarily rhyme or reason. In the fall we weren't sure what we were going to get. We played a Final Four team, we played a couple top 20 teams, and we did well. We competed. We were able to come up with a win. It doesn't mean it's going to translate to the spring. The fall is the fall. It's just you're preparing. And then we had a bunch of injuries. We had some season-ending injuries after fall ball. And moved to spring, we've had some more injuries occur. And, I'm always a firm believer of when you prepare, you're preparing the entire team, and you have to learn how to adapt. Every team does it. They aren't all brand new like us. They aren't, predominantly freshmen, but, as you're preparing everyone, people need to learn how to step into roles as well. So sometimes it may come a little easier, sometimes it may come a little harder. Maybe we had our success early on and we're going to struggle a little bit. That's okay. It's a matter of working through that and how to continue to have the fire, no matter what the outcome of the game. How to continue to play hard and tough for 60 minutes, even if the score doesn't come out in our favor. So I think game by game, that's something that we're going to continue to try and preach, because 6 more games that we have on our schedule, because we haven't played a ranked opponent this spring. We've played them in the fall. They know what to expect, but we haven't done it in the spring. We just played our first game in the rain, and
a little different than this.
Yeah, every time you do something new, it's certainly difficult for the girls, but when you teach them how to adapt, when you teach them that you're going to overcome pitfalls and it's okay when you fall and get back up, I think they're more likely to tackle it head on.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking big picture, I mean, you've seen this sport through a different number of perspectives as a player, as a coach, as a broadcaster, and you've mentioned how you see this job as one that you could be in for a long time. But how do you see the future of the sport as it continues to grow, especially in this half of the country and in this region specifically? What do you see in the future for women's lacrosse?
I definitely see lacrosse continuing to be the fastest sport on 2 feet. Obviously, with the new rule changes, we see fast pace, we see longer games. We see, our game moving more towards a lot of middies, a lot of subbing in and out. I think more and more players across the country are realizing that it's a fun sport to play. So I see more and more people picking it up. It's a sport that's going to continue to grow in your non-traditional areas or your areas that have your soccer, sports that are played on larger fields. But with the direction that we are heading, I think on fields that were the same size as men's lacrosse, I think that's something that's in the future as well. I definitely don't want to ever see us wearing helmets. That is a strong possibility, so hopefully we stay clear of that. But it's a definite rise. The Olympics, that's a for sure thing in the future as well, hopefully in the 2020s. So the World Cup this past year, that was a super positive. The World Games after then. Our sport is 10 to 15 years behind where soccer was. So, we're on the upward rise for both men's and women's lacrosse. I'm excited with what the future holds, especially for my kids. So, I think it's a positive. It's just a matter of keeping it safe. And, that's something for the powers that be to continue to hear us coaches and the referees to keep us out of helmets.
All right, last question for you. How do you make Arizona State a bona fide lacrosse destination?
I think having more universities add the sport, U of A, Northern Arizona, and then having it become a high school sanctioned sport. It's tough for people to become involved with a sport that's not in the high schools. I think when it's a sport that kids can play in high school, then they want to play it at the youth level. And so it's kind of a trickle-down effect. We already have it at one university, so as more universities add, and then you have it at the high school level and then all the way down to the youth, it just makes sense. So we want to help be a part of that, help a part of the growth. So we've already began, so it's help us, help join.
Well, the women's lacrosse team, they're 4-1 right now. They have their home opener on Saturday, their first ever home game at the ASU Soccer Lacrosse Stadium at 3 o'clock. You can watch it on Pac-12+. Courtney, thank you again for joining us so much.
Thanks so much for having me.